Us. We want to take you straight now to Paarl in the Western Cape for the National Women's Day event. Remember, President Cyril Ramaphosa is expected to deliver the keynote address shortly, and this year's theme is 100 Years of Albertina Sisulu, Women of Fortitude, Women United in Moving South Africa Forward. Let's go there now.
SABC News celebrates Women's Month.
And welcome back to Paarl, where we continue, of course, with the rolling coverage of the Women's Day celebrations here in Paarl in the Western Cape. We are currently in the township of Mbekweni. It is here, of course, where this morning we will have President Cyril Ramaphosa delivering the keynote address of Women's Day celebrations. And one of the key themes for today is, of course, celebrating the 100-year birthday of Mamu Albertina Sisulu, who would have been 100 years old today had she, of course, still been alive. Now, we'd like to welcome you. If you're watching this on SABC2, we'd like to welcome you to our live broadcast where we've been from this morning onwards. One of the things that we did this morning was to hand over 100 pairs of shoes to young school children here in Paarl. That was an initiative that's brought to you by a foundation that resides in Khayelitsha called Kasi Angels. One of the other critical things that we hope to address, of course, is the issue of sanitary towels for young girls and young women in South Africa. It is a basic health need that has seen many young women stay out of school. Now, as we celebrate this day and we think back about Mamu Albertina Sisulu, it is the kind of thing that we as South Africans need to reflect on. And as we do so, we need to decide as a country what it is that collectively we can do for the plight of our young women and our children. One of my colleagues put together this package.
Bengithi mangabe mhlambe ngihleli phansi ngithi ngiyasukuma sekubonakele ngemuva esiketini ingane bezingihleka zingilandele mase ngicine sengiphatheke kabuhlungu ngabe ngisakwazi ukukhululeka esikoleni.
Ngesinye isikhathi ukuthola ukuthi uma wakhe akanayo imali kube nzima ngisho ukuze esikoleni uthi uzama ukusebenzisa itholela iphepha uzwe ungekho comfortable usesikoleni naseklasini kube ngathi ingane ziyakuhleba kanti cha lutho.
These girls form part of the millions of South African schoolgirls who come from families where a set of sanitary towels is equivalent to the price of a loaf of bread to feed a hungry family. The issue of VAT exclusion on sanitary pads has been tabled on several occasions in Parliament in order to bring down the price on what is deemed a basic need for women. Some MPs say doing away with the VAT on sanitary pads will be a progressive step by government.
There's a distinction that has to be made between the sort of coherence of tax policy and the goods and services that should be subsidized by government, particularly when the need is greatest. The zero rating VAT does create, zero rating a product for VAT does create problems in complexity in the management of a VAT system, a value-added tax system. So, and a value-added tax system, to be reasonably efficient, should have as few exemptions as possible. So that's the logic of the tax regime. The real question to ask is how should government actually be subsidizing these particular products? And VAT, even if zero rated, probably wouldn't make a great deal of difference to the need for access to sanitary pads and towels for girls at school and of school-going age who have families who have who have inadequate incomes.
Women activists say the issue of sanitary towels does not only affect girls from rural areas but women across the country as well.
You take it for granted that we're all here in Joburg, where everybody thinks it's a place of gold. Everybody who's there can afford anything. But when we got there, we actually realized that the issues are deeper. Even though we're handing out sanitary pads for the whole 6 months, and Shell topped it up and said would make it 12 months for the year. But you can realize that 1 year is just not enough. It is an issue that needs to be addressed. It is an issue that needs our attention as citizens of the country. It is an issue that, I'm hoping government would take it hard. Women issues are really, really deeper, are far beyond sanitary towels.
The lack of free supply of sanitary towels and education on women issues is what led this young lady to reach out to other young girls. Poetry, they are able to express their concerns.
That old people don't actually talk about these things. They try to hide it. They're not open enough. But when we are together as young people, we are open. We talk about anything and everything. So that's when they spoke about. That's when they told me that they don't have access to sanitary towels, and then I decided, okay, I'll buy sanitary towels for them. And then we do talk about menstruation and everything that is happening. Of course, I don't have all the info, but other girls, so we just gather all the information that we have.
Prof. Alex says girls' issues generally have been downplayed for the longest time and government need to urgently step in.
There is an overall issue about whether girls are properly protected in the school environment and adequately catered for. Everything from the facilities available at the school as well as people that they can speak to if they've got issues, their own personal health issues that they want to raise. And I think that this actually needs to, the basic education system needs to be a lot more sensitive to the requirements of little girls, girls of school-going age. And I think that is something that also requires a degree of investigation and implementation.
Activists believe that the government does have means to provide for the girl child in need, but have chosen to overlook them instead.
To sit and think there's companies who's been making millions out of sanitary ware from generations and generations, to realize that government has been making money out of tax on these products, it's really, really sad, because it is a natural issue. And to compare and realize that men get condoms for free. Every public toilet you go to, you get a free condom, and that's what you do for pleasure. We are appealing as women, not just now being a Women's Month, every single day. We are appealing to the public, we are appealing to women who've made it, we are appealing to every woman who's working who can afford an extra packet. We are appealing to manufacturers of the sanitary towels to please look into how can we support the young girl, especially by providing just one of the basic needs of a woman, a sanitary pad.
As much as condoms are free, we do need those condoms. Right, but then I think what we're working on currently is to at least have a pack whereby there's a pad and then there are condoms, so that everyone can have access to everything, and then pads surely can be free also. If there's a certain budget for condoms, I think rather they divide it into pads and condoms.
Even though there has not been a final verdict on the removal of tax on sanitary towels and ways on how to implement the free supply of these towels in schools, a call for action has now been set in motion, and women believe it can be done.
Very fortunate.
Nompumelelo Mthethwa, SABC News.
Welcome back. We continue, of course, with our live broadcast of the Women's Day celebrations here in Paarl. We're in the township of Mbekweni, where President Cyril Ramaphosa is expected to deliver the keynote address in just a few minutes from now at least. We are expecting him and the Premier of the Western Cape, Umamu Helen Zille, to take to the podium to kick off the official program of this celebration. But before we get to him, I am now joined by Uba Ovusimkhize, who is, of course, the Director General of the Department of Arts and Culture, the department that is tasked with the custodianship of South Africa's arts and South Africa's culture. Sir, thank you very much for joining us here this morning.
No, good morning, Lucanio, and good morning to the SABC listeners.
So how important is it, firstly, that we as South Africans celebrate and mark the 9th of August as Women's Day?
It's extremely crucial because it's just a moment when South Africans throughout the country have a moment to reflect on that which is happening regarding the women's struggles, particularly taking into account that we're coming from a very patriarchal, very racist era. Now women have to be given space to exercise their full potential, and we can only do that if we always remember that which was already planted as a seed for justice, equality and freedom for all.
There are some who argue that the fact that, yes, on this day women receive recognition, but what about the other 364 days of the year? What are we doing in those days to really highlight the plight of women in South Africa?
If you just go back to the theme of this day is saying that Mama Sisulu, the woman of fortitude. Now, if you look at the definition of fortitude, it talks about having courage in the face of deep-seated pain. Now, we cannot say that can only happen only once in a month of August. We are saying the month of August, this day is only a reflection to create consciousness among all South Africans, but it should be for every second, for every minute, for every day. Therefore, then, we want South Africans to just really appreciate the role that women on their own in 1956 decided to say no man, no amount of obstacles can be put on our way. The past laws have to go. They divide families. They deny mothers their opportunity to be with their loved ones. But most importantly, that struggle was about liberation forever. And therefore, our young women and our young people, this day gives them that opportunity to learn. Because unfortunately, our country had not made history a compulsory subject. So we've been learning about Van Riebeeck, we've been learning about Napoleon Wars. Now, we have these days tell us about our own history, about the contribution of South African women in the fight for justice and freedom. And therefore, we believe this day then brings everybody together. Just as a last point, remember that 1950 was led by a multiracial group of women, and that 20,000 was from all races and all creed and religions. So it's about social cohesion and building that nation going forward.
Let's talk about the issue of social cohesion. I mean, in 1956, the march, multiracial, women of different races, white, black, colored, Indian, Chinese, I'm sure were all there. However, when we look at this gathering here today, I'm sure you would have noticed that it is predominantly black people, it is predominantly colored people. There's not a lot of representation in terms of the white community or even the Indian community. What are we doing wrong today what they got right in 1956?
I think the major challenge that we have was the understanding of what it means to be a South African, that sense of identity. And therefore, our major issue at this day is that social cohesion must be a strategy where we as a Department of Arts and Culture, we must make conscious effort to bring those communities who are minorities who feel left behind. So we are reviewing that strategy so that at the end of the day, all races feel that national days are not for Africans, but it is natural that Africans will embrace these days because they were the most oppressed, and therefore it will happen like that. But those who still have a sense of do they really want to be part of this nation, we are appealing to them that they must come, they are welcome. This is their national day. And we are glad here, the colored community is there, as well as the Indian community, some of them are here. But of course we are saying the outreach programs through social dialogues are going to go there. We work in small groups, we define our identity as South Africans, and we make it clear, you are not only a South African when it suits you. You are a South African every day, national days or no national days. and that is what we want to do.
Okay, and then just lastly, before I let you go, there is of course the issue of how do we continue to memorialize some of these brave women that have fought so valiantly for the struggle of South Africa, against apartheid. What is the department doing specifically in terms of memorializing those women, in terms of days of remembrance for them, in terms of documentary films for them, in terms of making sure that books are written about them? Just what are you doing in that regard?
We have decided that we will have what we call documenting the living legends, so that people like Mama Sophie de Bruyn, while they are still alive, have an opportunity to tell us their story. It gets written, it gets documented, it becomes, but most importantly, work with researchers, with the department, so that these become history books that can be taught. We are responsible for libraries. These documentaries need to be in the public libraries throughout. We are also responsible for heritage. We need to make sure that not only through monuments and statues, but also in terms of education and the minds of our people. We educate, and we will work with the with them while still alive, but also continue with the research to document and make sure these things are in a literary sense in the libraries, but also we have storytelling and reading of books as part of that program.
Sir, thank you very much. We really do appreciate you coming to talk to us. Thank you very much for your time. There was Mr. Vusi Mkhize, who is, of course, the Director General of the Department of Arts and Culture within the country. I am now joined by Prof. Othengiwe Mkhize to talk to us as the former Treasurer General of the Women's League. Ma'am, I'm sorry the music is a little bit loud, but thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. I mean, for us, this is a big day in the sense that it gives us an opportunity to reflect about the victories of women who struggled before us. We reflect on their strength, their resilience, their unity, their persistence on ensuring that they fight against all forms of patriarchy, whether waged by colonial eras or apartheid eras. So the challenge for us is how to define our own mission today and use those strengths of those women to push back violence against women. It has reached proportions where we feel, as this generation, we are betraying that struggle if we don't stand up together, as you saw with the hashtag total shutdown. That was a language that enough is enough. When it comes to economic inclusion, you know, women remain a symbol of poverty. We are saying today, where are women, how are women gonna benefit? When we talk access to land, ownership, how are women gonna benefit? When the president talks about billions and investment, the question is, we missed out during the PE and triple PE policy. How are we gonna now today make sure that women are not bystanders? So we are holding on to the strength of the women who led before to say, it's possible, we are gonna do it. We are in a new dawn. We are fighting for our space in this freedom.
One of those issues, ma'am, about fighting for the space is, of course, the issue of two things. The violence against women that we've seen that has literally just spiked throughout the country. And then there's, of course, the other matter of poverty, and particularly the issue of sanitary towels for young girls and young women. How does the Women's League, the government, the ANC, how do you see that that struggle being carried forward and basically being eliminated?
Yeah, you see, we have the Agenda 2030 and Agenda 2063 that has been put forward. But women are not gonna get there walking as though they are walking to the kitchen. We have to prioritize. we have been saying, you know, empowerment of women through getting education, skills, and economic inclusion. It defines quite a number of rights after that, because once you are empowered, you are then able to determine where you want to stay, where your children should be. If you are in a relationship, there are challenges, you have choices that you can make.
Ma'am, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to cut you. My producers are screaming in my ear that I think we just quickly want to bring in Umamo Umaitenkwane Shabane in here. Ma'am, thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us, ma'am. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time. But I mean, obviously, from your side, the issue today, critical, the issue of housing and shelter for women. How do you see yourself and your department being instrumental in that aspect from today onwards?
My name is Maitenkwane Mashavane, Minister of Land Reform and Rural Development. We must build, and we had committed to build human settlements, not houses. So we need to build human settlements. A house is but part of the component. As we move forward, we want to go back to basics and make people's housing program a reality, working together with the Department of Human Settlements. Yes.
Ma'am, I appreciate your time. Thank you so very much. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. I understand now that good day, sir. How are you?
Well,
I'm very well, thank you. I understand that you're a grandson in the Sisulu family. If you could just give me your full name, please.
My name is Linda Kinyi Sisulu.
Today, obviously, we are celebrating your grandmother. What do you think she would make of where we are as a country today, just in terms of how we as men look after our women?
Look, with us having been raised the way in which we've been raised, we really never had tasks for boys and girls at home. And I think she should be encouraged by the development and the kind of days that we're having now that are encouraging men to be the kind of men that incorporate themselves into the lives of women and support the growth of women and empowerment of women.
Growth and empowerment of women when we're living in a country where almost every other day we're hearing of a woman.
Well, there you have it. Lukanya Talata is in Paarl, where the national official celebrations are taking place for Women's Day today. Yeah.